All right, welcome back, everyone, to Strange Planet Podcast. And in this week's episode, we are going to be talking about Russell Brand's current situation, where he has sexual assault and rape allegations from 4 different women. And for those who don't know who Russell Brand is, he's a British actor, comedian, musician, who's been in a variety of movies and musicals. And now this is a very serious matter. And it seems that some of these celebrities, the fame and the power and the fortune all gets to their head and they kind of feel, I guess, that they can do whatever they want. But that's where they're dead wrong. So what do you guys think about this situation here?
So Russell Brand, as everyone knows, is a pretty popular actor, or I should say former actor and comedian. He was in films like Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek. I personally was a fan of his. Really funny guy.
As was I.
Brand of humor, no pun intended. I liked it. He was a little bit raunchy, but it was funny and it worked for the type of movies and comedies that he did. But unfortunately, he's become the subject of some sexual assault and rape allegations, most notably by 4 women. These allegations took place allegedly between 2006 and 2013. And, this was a lengthy investigation by different UK media outlets. He is, of course, a citizen of the UK, if I'm not mistaken. He's definitely British. But they investigated and interviewed these women who claimed that during this period between 2006 and 2013, he engaged in sexual assault and rape. And Russell Brand, as you know, he was in a relationship with Katy Perry. He was married to her during at least part of this time, I believe. So that's probably not good for her to hear.
Yeah, for real.
So basically, these women, one of them apparently was 16 at the time that she was allegedly raped.
Oh boy.
And that is actually the age of consent in the UK. So the age wasn't really, there was nothing illegal per se about the age. Here in the United States, that's horrible. That's illegal. But in the UK, that would have been legal. But the rape is not legal. And so if he did that, he would certainly be in a lot of trouble there. He basically was accused by her of, I don't know how I should phrase this, but Brand was accused of basically shoving his penis in her mouth. And that's never anything good that you want to hear. There was another woman who came forward to his publicist agency with, I think it was in 2020, and said that Russell Brand had raped her. And when the publicist agency asked him about it, he said, no, of course not, absolutely not. And they believed him. Now, when these allegations were reported on by the media outlets, the publicist agency dropped them and just said, you know what, we're done. YouTube has also cut off his funding now. He can still publish videos to the platform, but his videos are demonetized. And that has raised a lot of controversy in terms of many of his supporters who apparently believe that, as Russell Brand phrased it in a video denying the allegations, that this was a coordinated attack. And if you know anything about Russell Brand's videos, he basically retired from acting, or he's not really in Hollywood anymore, and he's engaging in political discussions on his YouTube platform. And his personality is rather eccentric. He had eccentric comedy in his career in acting, and that has sort of translated over into his YouTube channel and his presentation of political topics. And in recent years, he's been getting a little nuttier, a little more right wing. And so you have supporters of his, or even people that don't necessarily support him, but believe in conspiracy theories that Russell Brand has sort of promoted. You have them saying that it's, elites and the deep state or whatever, just collaborating to silence him. And so we have this notion now where you have people who are already fed up by what they deem cancel culture, and you have people that are very prone to conspiracy theories without any evidence whatsoever saying that, of course, Russell Brand didn't do this. He's innocent until proven guilty, and this is just some, elite political power forces trying to silence him. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, to tell you the truth, before, we're talking years back, I'll give you a little history. Like, I did like him. I thought he was a pretty good, funny comedian. I thought he was not that bad of an actor as well. But the conspiracy theories is where I draw the line. Now, there was times he was on talk shows. There was times he was on like Real Time even with Bill Maher. And, sometimes that's when I noticed you'd see those conspiracy theories come out. And when you have a society out there right now that doesn't know the difference, especially when facts are not included, that is where a problem occurs. And that's where these conspiracy theories tend to keep lingering. So without any evidence or facts, like you were saying before, these are just bullshit conspiracy theories for the most part. But in the society we have now, it seems like that is what's growing. And that's going to only really cause more damage in the long run, because a lot of it, I hate to say it like this, but a lot of it is complete bullshit. I mean, he said a couple of things in time where I may have agreed with a couple of things, but generally, where we currently stand now, no. Yeah, I don't. And when it comes to this information that now came out with the 4 or 5 different women that came out and accused him of rape?
It was 4 in this particular report by multiple British news media organizations.
Right. Now, see, this is a sticky situation because, of course, like you said, there's no way he's going to be like, oh, yeah, it was me. Of course he's going to deny it. So that's already...
Well, the way he denied it was that, I was promiscuous in, my earlier life. I was promiscuous, but everything was consensual. Yeah, we know you were promiscuous. He, his raunchy comedy routine and, the way he just acted both off and on set, you could tell that the guy was, a playboy. But as far as, actual sexual assault and, non-consensual encounters with women, that I guess the public really was unaware of. Also, this comes not too long after, you guys know Danny Masterson. He played Hyde on That 70s Show.
Yep.
And he was...
Just got locked up.
Yeah, he was convicted. Yeah, he was convicted for rape of 2 women. There was a third, but I think her case got dismissed. 2 women who were in the Church of Scientology. Danny Masterson was apparently involved with that church as well. And these women, they claim that he raped them. This was probably 20 years ago.
Oh, man.
It was a long time ago. And, the first time they had a mistrial because the jury couldn't agree on a verdict. The second time, the second trial, the prosecutors decided to retry the case. They were able to get a conviction, and then sentencing came up, and they said the judge invited people to submit both letters of support or character letters, basically describing Danny Masterson's character so that the judge could take that into account when determining the sentence. Because the judge has discretion in terms of whether to afford some leniency to Mr. Masterson. But the judge ultimately decided to sentence him to the maximum sentence, which was 2 15-year terms served not concurrently, which would mean they would be served together. So
together,
15 years, altogether, but consecutively, meaning he would serve one 15-year term and then another 15-year term. So he's in there for 30 years. I think after 25 years, he would be eligible for parole. But you're talking about potentially 25 to 30 years behind bars for these rapes. And part of the sort of process in terms of getting the character letters, apparently Mr. Masterson's family reached out to some of his former co-stars on That 70s Show. And there you had Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, among others, writing letters in support of Danny Masterson, saying what a great guy he was. And, they would never think he would do something like that. And they apparently received a lot of backlash because, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis are involved in sexual assault survivor charity work. And apparently Ashton has now resigned from a position that he had with one of those charities. So that's like a really hard thing to gauge because obviously they were friends. And, when friends go through rough times, you want to be there for your friends. However, this was a rape conviction, and the judge is asking you whether or not this convict's character should be taken into consideration in terms of what kind of sentence they got. And Ashton and Mila Kunis, they sort of used their personas, their celebrity, to try to convince the judge, who apparently wasn't convinced, and actually it may have hurt Mr. Masterson's case because he gave him the maximum sentence. They sort of interjected themselves into the process. They were invited by the family to submit these letters, but I just think that they had a choice to do this, and they didn't know these letters would one day become public. But they did. And a lot of people were disappointed in the way that they sort of described the character of this guy as being, an upstanding citizen, a great dad, a good friend, someone who is very anti-drug. And I think one of the highlights of those letters was, I think, in Mila Kunis's, where she said it would be an injustice for, hold on, I don't know if it was Mila or Ashton, so I'll have to double check that. But it would be an injustice if his daughter were to grow up without a present father, without necessarily thinking of the injustice that has apparently gone on for 20 years where, he raped a couple of women and apparently got away with it using, in part, the Church of Scientology.
Oh, man, here we go.
So I want to get your guys' reactions to, these charges. So you have Masterson going down, and now you have Russell Brand, in the crosshairs. I mean, two very different characters in terms of the roles they portrayed. But again, these are allegations from many years ago, and now they're surfacing in the wake of the Me Too movement. What are your guys' reactions to, some actors that we may have liked in the past or appreciated?
it tells you one thing too. Even coming from Ashton and Mila Kunis's position, you never really know people in the end. Sometimes it turns out, because sometimes the person you hang out with, maybe even record the shows, make movies with, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's one persona of that person. That's the one they really get to know very well. But it goes to show you really don't know what goes on behind closed doors. So for them to support him on that, I almost feel like maybe it was a situation where they fumbled. Maybe they weren't, you know what I mean? Kind of
right. They apologized for any
supporting him.
Caused and
yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
it's a shame too, because I'm not gonna lie, like they're both very different actors, not for nothing, but I guess they did, make a lot of people laugh, and for the most part, they were pretty funny overall. But the bottom line is you still can't do whatever the hell you want, especially shit like that. So regardless to how much you make or how much fame you have, there's still repercussions if you fucking try to rape somebody or actually do it. You know what I mean? So even though you may not think that, oh, I know this person for 20 years or I've known this person for 15 years, he could never do something like that. You really can't say never in that case, because you never really know what's going on behind those closed doors. You know what I mean? And in Russell Brand's situation, I don't know, I doubt this pertains to Masterson at all, but if I'm not mistaken, Russell Brand was a recovering drug addict too. I think he's been clean for quite some time now, but he had a pretty dark history with a lot of heavy drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He seems to have cleaned himself up and reformed himself, but perhaps, there was more to that, ugly past than we knew. And it's unfortunate because it looks like he, for the most part, left that past behind him. But that just shows you that, if you do things like that harm other people's lives, there is a price to pay. You may not pay it today, you may not pay it for years, but if you rape a woman, that there's going to be hell to pay once those women find out about each other and gain support and get the courage to tell their stories
and expose them. Yeah.
And it's very difficult, I think, for them to be able to come forward because, I mean, look at the people who are coming. These people are famous and rich. And
right.
Not only do they have the lawyers with which to defend themselves and to threaten them with lawsuits or whatever, but they also have, crazy ardent fans who will accuse them of lying. So it's already bad enough that, you were raped, but then you have to deal with people who are automatically going to take the side of the celebrity and say that they were lying.
Right. And no matter what, they can't do any wrong.
Right. And then you have, in Brand's case, you have fanatics who believe in and are attached to his worldview in terms of conspiracy theories, and then that becomes all the more dangerous because then you're going into Trump territory with respect to how fanatical people are, and
right.
And they might be motivated to take action against you.
That's the scary part about like celebrities and fame and stuff. Because like some people just love these guys or these people as icons so much that they, even if they do, which is the case here, they did something really fucked up in their eyes. There's no way it could have happened. You know what I mean? There's no way he could have done this.
And they automatically blame, the media elites and they say, well, yeah, they say that the accusers are paid off by the elites, that this was orchestrated. And Brand knows that this is a hot button issue with his audience. He is, striking the drum for his supporters to come out and support him. He is using those buzzwords that this was orchestrated, it was coordinated. And he is saying he's signaling to his supporters, I'm being set up by, some nebulous, unknown group of people. And so they've already been watching his show. They've been primed to believe in these conspiracy theories, and now they're coming for him. And so he can rile up his supporters to attack the accusers and create and sort of muddy the waters around the whole thing.
Yep, and defend him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's and that's where the messed up part is, because like it takes a lot of confidence for these victims to come out and say this stuff, and this is a public matter for that matter too. You know what I mean? So it's not like this is under the table kind of talk either. So when this comes out, it's everywhere, internet news, you name it, it's posted everywhere. So you get that situation, and then now they're being called liars, and like that's just ridiculous, especially when there's multiple accounts of it. And then, like you said, his description was he was promiscuous. I mean, come on now, that's basically almost.
There's a difference between promiscuity and rape.
And
sexual assault.
Yeah, for real. There's a big difference between the two,
There's a huge difference. One is consensual, one is non-consensual.
Right. And actually, I don't think I should have to say this, but I'm going to. But rape is beyond wrong. It's fucked up. It should never be taken lightly. And if proven guilty, they deserve the worst punishment humanly possible, period. Because that's what they deserve for basically destroying someone's life. It takes a really sick mind to do something that fucking vile.
Well, all right. So when it comes to the whole rape situation, I'm always like, give them the whole book, book them for everything. With the Russell Brand situation, as an actor, I was not a huge fan. I mean, he was kind of funny in the things I've seen him in, but something about him I didn't like. But with this whole situation of him doing drugs and everything, I could see him doing stuff like that. Not remember doing it. So
yeah,
that's true. I mean, for real.
Yeah, but he may actually be telling the truth when or you think he's telling the truth when he says, I was promiscuous, but everything was consensual. Maybe in his mind everything was consensual, and he thinks he was just so fucking high out of his mind that he couldn't tell the difference between reality. I mean, is that like a not guilty by reason of insanity type deal? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just pure curiosity. I mean, I'm interested in how he got into these situations with these women. It's just like, the 16-year-old. How old was he when he was involved with this girl? Or not?
He was 31.
Yeah, he was 31.
Okay, so my question is, how did that scenario come around? Was a 16-year-old just like someone he snatched up and fucking brought to a fucking closet? Or was it like, they were doing a signing?
Pick her up at a high school? Like,
yeah, seriously. Hey, I'm
page out of R. Kelly's book.
Yeah, I mean...
What, you just like go to a high school and go to the principal's office and like get on the loudspeaker and ask her to come down? Like, what the fuck?
For real, like this is insane.
Like, how did he even run in the same circles as a 16-year-old?
Yeah, like how?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting any illegitimacy to any of these claims these women have. I'm just questioning how it came about, because I'm pretty sure there's certain areas where it could come about.
According to her, she was dating him for a few months, I guess, or I don't know.
Really?
I mean, if you're dating someone and you're having sex already, that kind of puts the rape charge a little bit of like, are you trying to?
Yeah, no, but this is, it was, I guess, at the end of the relationship, and she did not, I guess, want him to put his penis in her mouth, and he insisted on doing so. She tried to push him away, but she like punched him.
That's enough for me.
Yeah, like
sounds guilty to me.
16 may be the age of consent in the UK, but that is way too young to subject a girl to that. And I'm using the term girl because she is a girl. She's not a woman.
That's true.
That's just awful.
It really is.
It's a disgusting situation. It really is. Just because in the UK the age is 16, that doesn't mean that that's okay. We should look for that.
Sexual assault is not good at any age.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, it's just,
she was particularly young, and so for him to subject her to that had to be, traumatizing.
Yeah, for real.
I wish there were people like Dexter out there who would find these people and really give them what they were supposed to really deserve. It's just rape is a big thing with me. I vote for castration or death.
I don't know about castration. That's a little too harsh of a punishment.
No more. They don't need it to survive, do they?
Yeah, but I think mutilating someone's body, I think that's
a little extreme, I guess. And
that's a little barbaric.
Yeah, that's true. That's why either death or life in prison makes it a little bit more.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone does a horrible enough crime to have their dick chopped off or their balls castrated, then lock them up for life.
That's the real, I think, penalization in the end. It should be.
I don't think there's any reason for our society to engage in the barbarism of castrating someone.
Right. And even sometimes I feel like the death penalty is only so good because I feel like they get out easy. Let them suffer in prison for life. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I'm against the death penalty in most cases. The only cases where I deem the death penalty to perhaps be warranted is for treason and for terrorism.
I agree. Those are good. Yeah, those are good instances for it.
I think that, for those two serious offenses against our country, I think that the death penalty could be considered. But for all other things, life is just a one, you have to be absolutely, positively sure that you're not going to make a mistake. And we know that people have been put on death row and even executed who have later been exonerated by evidence. And so I think that killing an innocent person is not worth the risk. You can easily, if you're going to kill someone, you can easily hold them in prison for life. And unless you have evidence that is clear and convincing, and with the advancement of technology, that there's going to be a lot of challenges to producing such evidence, whether it's going to be made up even. So I think in most cases, the death penalty should be off the table, and only in the most serious offenses against our country in terms of treason and terrorism. I think those are pretty much the only cases where the death penalty can be considered, but only if the evidence is just irrefutable.
Right. I definitely agree with that.
It should be a very high threshold.
I disagree with that. I'll give you one example why, and it comes to rape with that. You know the band Korn. If you know the band Korn, there's a song, I think, on their second album, he doesn't sing about the situation, but it's a song dedicated, or getting to the point, though, is it's about a child being raped and then killed and left for dead, or just left for dead. But not a child 6-year-old. We're talking a baby that was raped and left for dead and died. And I mean, it's a powerful song. It doesn't get into details about it. I think it barely says anything about anything of it, but it's just that kind of situation, which happens in this world. I believe those people deserve death. And I don't mean let's stick a needle in them and watch them go to sleep. No, fucking fry them in the electric chair. Make them suffer. You can give someone death, but can you give them life?
I mean, I can see why you'd say that, to be honest. I do kind of hear you with that. But at the same time, I almost feel like life in prison is still better because when the inmates find out what he did,
Oh yeah, no, they'll
if
fucking.
if they don't if they don't kill him, he's gonna be living in hell the rest of his life because he's gonna have to watch his back literally the rest of his life in prison. So you know what I mean? Like either which way, like yeah, you could kill him, but then I feel like killing someone like that almost lets him get off easy in a sense. Let him suffer, especially if he's only in his like 30s or 40s or something. And he's got life in prison. Let him,
Well, I mean,
rot in there for the rest of his fucking life. You know what I mean?
you know what it is? In my eyes, it's just that human nature is, we don't change unless something severe happens. I mean,
That's
that's
true.
what I know so far. So if we, I don't want to for a lot of things, but like these kind of extremes, I feel like are almost needed to show people like, hey, you can't do this. No matter how much money you have
I
or
don't
how
know.
much, whatever. It's you can't do these certain things, and if you do, we're going to give you an extreme punishment. It's almost like a deterrent. When people say, "Oh, I don't want that to happen to me, so I won't do that," but
I don't
people
know.
do what they want.
I think that in a case, especially like a case where, you described the corn song, I don't think there's any convincing someone that psychotic or deranged. I don't think any threat of punishment will convince them. Someone as that sick that would do that, I don't think, not prison, not death. I don't think anything is a deterrent if they're going to choose to do that.
That's a good point too.
And I think that the point of our justice system shouldn't be to enact retribution. It should be to punish people. When you're putting them in prison for life, you're not trying to correct their behavior anymore. What you're doing is saying, okay, we give up on you.
Yeah.
To stay in until you die.
Pretty much.
And I think that for
some lifers do get parole.
Right. I'm talking life without parole. Like if you do that to an infant, I would think that you would get the maximum life without parole. Like if I had a kid and someone did that to my kid, I'd probably fucking kill him myself. But
right.
but that doesn't mean the law should allow me to do that. And I don't think the justice system should work like that. The justice system is supposed to allow us to take care of a situation like that without allowing our passions to get the better of us. Our justice system should act to remove those passions in terms of retribution and give a punishment, and either to correct behavior if you're going to let the person out. But in such extreme cases like the one you suggested, I that is to get them out of society and away from society and never to rejoin society. And the goal is accomplished at that point. And I don't think there's any need to go beyond that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. But the most important part is the accountability part. You know what I mean? When these situations rise and when there's like evidence that proves that this is the situation, the consequences not only should be dire, but the consequences need to be in full effect to set not only an example if some other whack job decides to do something this fucked up, but you know what I mean? It sets a standard. Like this is wrong and should not be done.
But like I said, again, like people who do these like really, really heinous crimes, I don't think they're motivated by the threat of justice. Like if you do that to an infant or you commit terrorism or whatever, you are not motivated by, oh, are they going to kill me or are they going to keep me in prison? I don't know. Like that, I don't think that is a factor in determining their behavior. At that point, their mind is deranged in order to bring yourself to be able to do that. And we've had the death penalty, we've applied it to people, and that shit still happens. It doesn't deter them from doing that. And so
that's a good point too. That's true, because they know it's technically an option that could be a possibility.
They know it's on the table.
Yeah,
we've executed people for less.
Yeah.
and they'll still do it. So at that point, I don't think deterrents work. And as long as there's a chance that someone might be innocent, I don't think that we should enact a death penalty against someone. But if there's evidence that's irrefutable, which again, there's a lot of concerns about evidence going forward in terms of AI, and we'll talk about that perhaps in a later episode. But I think that it's going to be an issue that is definitely going to be more prominent in the future. But I think that as long as we have the death penalty, there's like a threat that it could be used inappropriately.
That's true. And then the worst part about it is, God forbid, this isn't like going to be relative to, like, say, a rape case or something. Or I guess maybe in a sense it could, but generally I would say not. But in like a murder case or something, say you convict someone, like we were saying before, and then give them the death penalty, and then the case is opened up years later, and then they find out they got the wrong guy. You can't bring him back to life. You already killed the innocent guy now. So it opens up a whole can of new worms, you know what I mean? And it kind of screws up the whole story. Where if he was just incarcerated, you could have taken him out and then put the right one that belongs in there.
Right. You know? It's even awful that the person had to serve all this. People that served decades, and then later they found out, oops.
Right.
You didn't do it after all. All right, well, I guess we'll let you out now and give you a little bit of money. Enjoy the couple of years you have left of your life.
You know, and they just stole his life, basically. Yeah, so that's...
Yeah. That's one thing you can't get back is time.
Exactly.
But, you know, the people that do this work of exonerating people, that's like, you know, it's tough because obviously there are serious charges that warrant the death penalty. And so to take on this work to believe in a person that they're innocent and then to go prove it, you know, my hats are off to those attorneys.
Yeah, but the fucked up thing that I think pertains to a lot of these celebrities, whether they're musicians, actors, comedians, whatever the hell it is, I think once they get a certain level of fame and they start becoming, you know, like this big icon in whatever it is that they do, they start thinking they got this like immunity where they can almost do anything. And they're like, oh, well, who's going to believe my word over yours kind of situation? You know what I mean? So that's where the fucked up part comes into play, because then they think they can do these, you know, heinous fucked up things to women or anyone really. And then they think they're going to get out scot-free. And that's where, you know, the justice system needs to come in. And that's where, you know what I mean, penalties need to be carried out when these situations arise. Because like you said, regardless, with the death penalty or not, they know it could happen, but does it stop these situations from arising? No, unfortunately it don't, which is insane. But it's still important that we, you know, convict the ones that are proven guilty of it and give them the full extent of their price that they need to pay for their actions.
There is an easy way to fix this all to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen, but no one would do it, I think, in this society right now. And that is to chip everybody.
And how would that fix it?
How would that fix it? Yeah.
You'd have a recording of everything that happens in the person's life at all times. So, say an altercation did occur, you'd have all the evidence in the chips. And therefore, you just download the information like, nope, here goes. This is what happened. See.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll take the Fourth Amendment, please.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, too. I'm not putting no chips and not doing any of that shit neither.
It's like I said, you would fix the problem, but at the same time, nobody would go for it. Because then you can use it to track people, and there's all sorts of downsides to it.
I mean, I don't think that we should all be chipped like squirrels over the actions of these insane idiots at the same time, too. You know what I mean?
But how do you control populations for not doing the wrong thing?
Well, perhaps you might be onto something with the chip idea, where when these situations arise, the person that's guilty of it, I mean, obviously he's going to be thrown in fucking prison anyway or possibly killed. So you wouldn't need to put the chip in the person, you know what I mean? Granted, he'd already be in prison. But to criminals, maybe outside this realm, maybe that would work. If you're like an ex-convict or something and you served your 25 or your 20 years and now you're out, maybe that person might, at some point, they might need to put a temporary chip or something in him just to, monitor this whack job to make sure he's not going to go back to his old ways or anything. But I don't think we all should because of the actions of these idiots. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking about it now too. It could also, people could find the chip and then alter the chip. It would have to be something that you can't mess with. But
right, and then depending upon where they put it, who's to say they're not going to dig it out and then just throw it somewhere? Like you know what I mean. So that's a whole different story there, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty invasive.
It is.
I know
definitely against the Fourth Amendment. Obviously, if you agree to it as a condition of release from prison, that might be an option, but I still don't think it's a great idea.
Me neither.
Precedent.
That's all we got for this week. Strange Planet will have new episodes on YouTube every Friday. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.